Now you can enjoy the happiness of the holidays for the next 6 months by paying less and making more money by getting 180 days of picks from your favorite handicapper at a huge discount. This limited time Christmas special gives you a 90-day all access pass with a handicapper of your choice at WagerTalk.com, plus an additional 90 days of all access passes at no additional cost, an $849 value. This comes out to just under $5 per day, includes all sports released and any 5% best bets, normally priced at $35 each. Your access with your handicapper will cover NFL through the Super Bowl, college football through the national championship, any NBA and NHL action, including playoff games played during access and the start of the MLB season. Plus, if your handicapper does UFC, soccer, tennis, or any sport, yep, it's included. Happy holidays from everyone at WagerTalk.
What is going on, guys? Happy Thursday. Welcome back right here to Wager Talk TV. I'm Andrew McInnis. I have Carmine Bianco with me and Bryan Leonard in his usual Thursday spot. It was also great to meet Bryan and the rest of the crew in Vegas, having some wings when I was there just a few weeks back. But guys, we've got some great games to discuss today, some promotions at the end, some best bets as well. On Wager Talk today, they always do their What Have We Learned? I have a few things I've learned. Number one thing, for yesterday, well, I'd say the pond hockey continued. As Don Buster was saying, we continue to see goals in clusters. I mean, turnovers, poor zone exits, the goals continued. What else did we learn? How about the Vancouver Canucks? 7 wins now under Bruce Boudreau, this time an overtime winner. They continue to pour it on and keep things rolling, and great goaltending display from both guys there in that game with Gibson and Demko. One more thing I learned, and I'm going to throw it to Bryan with this. Are the Florida Panthers just a third period team here? Are they just a team that just needs to show up for one period here? Bryan, I had no idea you had a big play yesterday. We would have promoted that play a lot on our Twitter or whatever, but congratulations and wow, because that is just a third period team that just knows how to turn it on. They play until the final buzzer, and they got it done for you. Congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And it was such a pleasure to meet you and your lady friend in Vegas. And Carmine comes in with his wife all the time and always enjoy it. And it's nice to be able to finally get to meet you in person. And I had a great time that day. And unfortunately, I don't know if you knew that, but one of our buddies, Marco, had COVID. And he had went to a concert like the day or two before, and none of us got it, which was great. But poor old Marco had to suffer the last 10 days, but now he's backing out and hitting the bars and hitting his chicken wings. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. And the 2 games I had yesterday were Vancouver and Florida. And usually, you know, knock on wood, my hockey plays this year have been so good. They've been good ever since I started handicapping. But those 2 games, I was sweating all night. And it worked out very well for me, and I appreciate it. Florida was very good to me yesterday. We're going to talk about the Florida game today in our rundown. So, yeah, it's funny because I thought I had a great day yesterday. Then I was going through the listing, and a lot of our guys had great days. And I got a shout out. I know it's a hockey show, but Ralph Michaels has been on a heater like you were in hockey. I mean, would you go 15-0 or something? He's just been fantastic lately, and I've known him for most of my life, and he's a huge college basketball fan, and he's just tearing it up right now. So if you want to bet anything other than hockey, Ralph Michaels is your man right now, just on fire.
He is rolling right now. It's great to see, and like you said, a lot of hot handicappers across the board. At WagerTalk.com, I saw Hakeem Prophet have a 10-0 day in the NBA just a few short days ago. I'll bring in Carmine Bianco. I usually go to Carm right after I'm done speaking. I apologize for throwing things off, Carm. I was just excited because I talked about that Florida Panthers team, and I'm checking the yesterday plays, and I saw that Bryan had a big play on them. So sorry for mixing things up there, Carm. How was your night last night?
Yeah, you threw my intro into pretty much into the garbage because I had it all set up for Brian to go to him with his
Oh, you
5%
can
winner.
repeat
But
that. That's
Brian,
not a problem. I don't mind
Brian,
that at all.
it's all good. Yeah, congratulations on it. It's literally the only game I watched yesterday. I didn't watch any of the other games. I made the worst decision of my life watching a movie on Netflix yesterday leading up to the game. And let me tell you guys, I'm going to save you. If you haven't watched this, do not watch it. It's a movie with Jennifer Lawrence and Leonardo DiCaprio called Don't Look Up. It is quite possibly, it would be like watching the Buffalo Sabres playing the Buffalo Sabres. It's something you would not want to waste 2.5 hours of your life on. And I started to watch it, and about 40 minutes in, I'm like, this is terrible. And my wife walks into the room. She goes, if it's so bad, why are you watching? I said, because I made a bad decision, and I can't cash out of this one. I'm going to watch it right till the end and punish myself. And I did. It's terrible. I don't care what the Rotten Tomato percentages are or anything else you see. This is a bad movie with a great, pretty good cast of characters, but a terrible plot, and it's just bad. Anytime you have Meryl Streep as the the president of the United States, you know it's going to be a bad movie. Well, with that said, started pretty good on the day with or in the night with the Devils and fizzed out at the end. Wasn't happy about it. Anyone who picked up the NHL card has some extra plays in there. As long and the 7-day all access guys, I've added another day in there. So this is the last show of the week for me, guys. Prez is filling in tomorrow. I have a doc's appointment, but I did record 6 and 60. That'll be played tomorrow, just before the best bets segment. And it is a big card on Saturday. A lot of games and a lot that stand out. So make sure you watch the 6 and 60 tomorrow. You can scan through the Prez stuff. I know nobody wants to see the Prez, but you can watch the 6 and 60. That's all that really matters. Andrew, back to you. Let's get going here.
I love how you just throw that in there at the end, Carm. Definitely respect to you for continuing to do that segment, even though you won't be on tomorrow. It's a great segment. Lots of fun to watch, and I enjoy it. I'm sure our viewers do enjoy it as well. I appreciate the movie review. I won't be checking Rotten Tomatoes. I'll be just listening to you for that. And also, Carm, I have enough time watching any Buffalo Sabre games. I wouldn't want to watch them play each other. That's for sure. So that's how you know it would be pretty tough. For me last night, 3-1 on the ice, but 2 overtime winners. So one of those nights for me, and one of those was the Vancouver Canucks. So really happy to get that done. The other one was the Philadelphia Flyers. Really nice goal there in overtime. So usually I hate overtime, and I still kind of hate watching them. We were able to get them done last night. Today's games, we're going to discuss the Sabres, Islanders, Canadiens at the Hurricanes, Lightning, and the Panthers, and the Flyers and the San Jose Sharks. Let's start things off with Mr. Carmine Bianco talking about his Sabres against the New York Islanders here. We've got the Islanders minus 210, Carm, and the Sabres plus 175 on the road.
You know, I'm not even looking at the live chat right now, but I know for a fact that there's probably guys in the live chat saying, I'll bet $5 that Carmine Bianco says take the New York Islanders. And you guys are going to cash on that bet because you got to take the New York Islanders here. Listen, you look at this, look at the Sabres team. They're shorthanded right now. I think they're going to be in a bad spot come Saturday. They'll be playing their third and four nights and facing the Boston Bruins. But you look at the Islanders here. I think the Islanders have to be the team that you lean on here. Obviously, a huge price, but you can take them in regulation time. The Isles are starting to get healthy. They're starting to get bodies back into the lineup, and this is a team where all the teams in front of them, between those that ninth spot all the way down, even the 8th spot where I think Detroit sits in right now, are starting to regress a little bit and lose games. The only team who's not is Philadelphia, and we'll talk why at the end of the show or at the end of the 4 games that we're talking about. But they've played 5 or 6 games less than most of the teams in front of them. It's probably one of the best times to start getting a streak together. But these teams regressing, you start making up the standings and you move from 12th to 11th to 10th and 9th, and all of a sudden your team starts to play better because that playoff spot, that 8th spot, is within sights, and they're a better team. They're getting players, like I said, back into the lineup. You look at their COVID list, and yes, there are some names on there, but we saw yesterday names on the list, and the guys played. This is why it kind of, for lack of a better word, it kind of sucks that there isn't an up-to-date COVID list out there. But guys like Brock Nelson, we don't know if these guys are going to be back in the lineup. But this team is getting healthy, and I'm not going to say at the right time. The right time was at the beginning of the season, but you play the cards you're dealt. The Islanders are the play here. Take them in regulation time. I just don't see how the Sabres compete in this one. Brian?
I agree. I'm not as down on the Sabres for the future as you are. You've got the two guys coming over from Vegas. Tuck is just, I had been able to watch Tuck the entire time he was in Vegas. Just a tremendous hockey player. He's a huge guy, and he's fast as hell, and he's really going to help out this Buffalo team. He was the one guy coming out of Vegas that I did not want to give up. I know we got a great player in return, but keep in mind that you've got a good future with Tuck there, and they've got some good young players on that team. I actually looked at the line here, and my original thought was, how could the Islanders be a $2 favorite in this one? And when you take a look at the stats on the season, that's a good reason for it. Take a look at goals plus or minus per 60 on 5-on-5. The Sabres are minus 0.51. The Islanders minus 0.45, so they're very close. And even when you take a look at expected goals, the Islanders aren't much better. But you've got an Islanders team that has played very poorly on the season. They're getting some players back. They've been terrible in their new hockey arena. And now you find them with extra time to prepare. Buffalo playing yesterday, and they come in rested, and they're at home, and you've got to figure this game has been circled on their calendar. This is a team that, you always try to look at in the NBA and hockey when you're playing, 2-3, 3-5, that kind of thing. You'd have to take a look at the schedule. And from an Islander standpoint, you've got to think this game is circled. This is the must-win game, coming back home again and playing in front of like I said, a stadium that they have not played well at all in, and Buffalo in the second of a back-to-back, still trying to find themselves. They had some guys playing yesterday. I mentioned the two guys from Vegas. They had a couple other guys making their debuts, and they played a decent game yesterday. Now I think, although the season today stats won't show it, I think the Islanders, the way you have to look at this, I'm not going to lay the 2-1, but I fully expect the Islanders to get this victory.
Yeah, Brian, before we throw it back to Andrew for his take and the next game, in watching that game, ever since Granato moved Tage Thompson to center on that number one line, this guy is scoring goals. He's got like 12 goals, 8 assists, 20 points. Doesn't sound like a lot, but again, on a team that doesn't win a lot and doesn't score a lot, it's not bad. And now you add Tuck, and him and Tuck seem to gel right off the bat in that first game. Thoughts on that? Anything?
Yeah, I think, you've done a great job of finding spots from a schedule standpoint where it's a team that you can back. I think from now to the end of the season, based on what we've seen out of Buffalo the last few years, what we've seen so far this year, I think we're going to get a lot of chances to make some nice underdog money on the Buffalo Sabres this year. And once they get a little back more healthy, and these guys have been able to play together a little bit, I think that's going to be a money. If you were to give me one team the rest of the season that we can make money on, I think it's the Buffalo Sabres.
All right. We have talked long enough about the Buffalo Sabres, but maybe Andrew has a take on them.
Well, I definitely would say, as far as prop betting goes, I haven't talked about prop betting too much on this show quite a bit, but Carm, you kind of just nailed it right there with what I was going to say. I mean, yesterday, if you bet on those guys for some props, assists or points, even goals, you were able to make some money on a team that lost the game. And I think that in a lot of sports right now, especially the NBA, a lot of people are taking advantage of some of these, not knowing who's going to be in the lineup, who's going to get so much ice time, narrowing in on a few players. And I think with the Buffalo Sabres, To the points you guys are making about a few key players and Alex Tuck making that move over to the Buffalo Sabres, I feel like he'll be a good prop guy, and we're going to get value on him, more value than we would have gotten on the Vegas Golden Knights guys, simply because of the team he plays on now, and obviously they aren't as skilled. Here's the question I have for this game, though, guys. We've seen it in pretty much every game where a team is playing their first game back after this, I'm calling it a bye week now. We have this New York Islanders team haven't played since the 19th, right? And this Buffalo team is on a second half of a back-to-back, just like we had Brian discussing. So I know it's the Buffalo Sabres, but as desperate as this Islanders team is to get on a roll, how much do we take into account that they haven't played a game in several days? We're sitting here. It is December 30th. We have seen the rusty legs, not the rusty sticks and sniping. We've seen rusty legs as far as defensive capability. Give me the first period over 1.5 here. The first period overs have been rolling along. I feel like we will see a faster start in this game. I know the New York Islanders are a team that can play very slow and they want to be defensive. We've seen that for a couple years now with them, but I expect this game to get off to a hot start. So over 1.5 first period for me in this game. Montreal Canadiens and the Carolina Hurricanes. It's our next game up on the board. Carolina, oh my, minus 390 tonight at home in Raleigh, North Carolina. Montreal plus 305. The puck line, this is how you know it's a big favorite. The puck line for Carolina at minus 1.5 is minus 150, and the total is at 6 in this game. Look, in Montreal's game against Tampa Bay, as a fan, I was absolutely, disappointed at the end of that game. But for about 56 minutes of that game, I was really excited because what did I see? The future of the team, top prospects. I said it with Carm on the show that I didn't know if they would win that game, but I figured we'd see a good effort from some of the younger players. And I'm not saying this to kind of knock on any of the players like Hoffman or Toffoli or those guys, but when you're not playing well and your team is on pace for the worst year that your franchise has had, it's hard as a vet to be motivated. These young guys are fighting for a spot. But this is the thing. It's kind of one of those things where I look at that in the first game, right? The first game where all these younger guys are together. Now it's the second game. You're playing one of the better defensive teams, also a very deep team in the National Hockey League. You're on the road. Samuel Montembeault is in goal once again. I worry here about this game for the Montreal Canadiens. But again, we've got a Carolina Hurricanes team that I do believe, this is their first game as well. They haven't played since the 18th. So, Brian, what are your thoughts on this game, and how much do you take into account what I'm talking about here with the delay and kind of the pause here for Carolina?
Yeah, first off, I agree with your over in that first period. I was going to point that out, that I think it's going to be a higher scoring game. I was wondering why we're talking about this game on the schedule, because if you take a look at the year-to-date numbers, the Hurricanes in goals plus or minus per 60 are 1.86 goals on 5-on-5 better than the Canadiens, which is why this line is where it is. The expected goals is a little bit closer, but it's a situation where Montreal has played so poorly. I usually try to make a case for every team I'm looking at. And if you can't make a case, I've talked about this in football for many years. If you can't make a case for each team based on the line, you're not handicapping the game correctly. You need to say, for example, in a football situation, would you take 7? No. Would you take 10? No. Would you take 13? Yeah, I guess I would. So you got to be able to make a case. I have a hard time making a case right now for the Montreal Canadiens in this one. It's just that the situation that they're in, yes, they have that game under the belt, and I think that is an advantage here. But we've seen so much scoring, as you pointed out, with these teams that haven't played, and that would be a higher scoring game. And anytime you've got the better team and you're going to have a higher scoring game, that makes me want to play the better team even more. The only way I want to play, for the most part, a bad team is if it's going to be a limited amount of goals. If it's a 5 goals situation, then you've got more of a variance situation there, that positive variance. But if you're going to score more goals, that means the better team. for example, it works the same way out in basketball and football as well. If you're laying double digits in the NFL and you've got a really high total, chances are the variance is going to be higher and the better team is going to win. That's my concern here with Montreal. It's so hard to make a case for them. Yes, do they have a chance? Of course they have a chance. This is hockey. We've seen it all the time. The problem is Carolina could be the best team in hockey, getting back right here, playing at home. Tough to make a case for Montreal. I'll be sitting this one out.
Carm, I saw you had a two-teamer the other night that included fading the Montreal Canadiens. Would you consider doing it in this game, or is the price just too high with that massive price on Carolina that it might not even just be worth it?
No, I think you can do it, but I think you could actually spin it a different way, and instead of putting 390 into it, which just seems like the easiest way to approach this game, is maybe take the regulation number, which is about minus 200, and to parlay that with another game, and you're now into plus money on a two-teamer. You could very well do it with the New York Islanders if you expect them to win tonight against the Buffalo Sabres. And Brian makes some very good points when you're looking at both sides. The reason why I can't find a reason for taking the Montreal Canadiens tonight is because essentially while they played Tampa tough, that was their taxi squad. There's so many players missing on this team. It just makes them tough against here. And then you start to wonder, they played a Lightning team that haven't been playing the best of hockey and had legacy in net. And as we said, they've been some pond hockey type of games. But the reason for liking the Islanders and the reason for liking the Canes is these are supposed to be two very well-coached teams. You've got, obviously, Barry Trotz for the Islanders, and you have to figure he's got to have that team prepared off the shelf, but we'll see if that happens tonight or not. And then you look at the Canes. Brind'Amour is a very good coach, and as Brian said, this could very well be one of the best teams. You look at their games, and you just do not find a game where Carolina gets where a team goes into Carolina where Carolina's 9-3 with a plus 20 goal differential, but anywhere, even on the road, where this team gets outplayed. The game they lost the game 4-1 to Dallas. You have to go back 8 or 9 games to that one, an empty net goal, but that was a close game throughout. The only game I saw them outplayed was the game in Florida, where the Panthers, I think, scored 4 goals in the first 10 minutes of that game, eventually won the game 5-2, but they played 10 horrible minutes, Carolina, and still played well in that game. They just don't get outplayed. They are a very good team, play well defensively. Can you lay minus 390? You can if you don't like your bankroll, because on any given day, a team can jump up and bite you in the ass, but I just don't see it happening here. This is a team that's won 6 of their last 7. For me, it's likely the Canes in regulation time. Try and tie it into something else. I played the puck line last night, but the puck line last night was minus 125. I think it was minus 120 or 125 when I played it. It's starting to get away right now at minus 150. That's on the high end and something I wouldn't play. But for me, it's the Canes here.
You make a great point there about the Carolina Hurricanes, and if they weren't playing my favorite team here tonight, Carm, I would say that I really enjoy watching the Carolina Hurricanes. I do, because they're 4 lines. You mentioned Rod Brind'Amour, what he's able to do with the team, and just kind of how the great system they run. Like you said, besides that Dallas game, and that was only a 3-goal margin, a lot of teams have lost by more than 3 goals this year in at least 1 or 2 games. They don't really get blown out much. They don't get outworked much. And I love teams that don't just have one line that scores every single goal. I wanted to mention this because, Jesperi Kotkaniemi got that offer sheet, Carm, for $6.1 million. He has not had a good season for the Carolina Hurricanes. However, this is not a sports talk show. It's a sports betting show. So I bring that up because he actually scored in the last meeting against the Montreal Canadiens. He's plus 320 tonight. All right. I can guarantee you he is excited for this game tonight. People that believe that players don't get up for more games than others, I completely disagree with that. I expect to see this guy get it going, and I might take him to get a point or look at, that with the plus 320. But when I look at this game, I think that it's going to be a rough one. And I got to ask you, Carm, with Samuel Montembeault, obviously he's the third stringer for the Canadiens, but I wonder, how much is it just like his poor defensive play in front of him, or is it just he's not really the guy? Because I feel bad for him because he actually played probably his best game as a Canadian against Tampa, but there's just still so many defensive mistakes. I'm not sure if you probably saw that game-winning goal in overtime for Tampa Bay. I mean, that's just tough to see, and you can't blame the goalie for that one. That's for sure.
No, you can't. To your point of players in the offer sheets, we once they have that money, they just I don't know, man. It's just sometimes a player's best year is their contract year, right? So when they're at the end of their contract and looking to sign their next one. But as far as goalies go, we don't know as far as Montembeault goes because of the play the first 2 nights since we've come back. You look at it. Look at last night. Some of these goalies, and these are top goalies, being left hung out to dry. You've got UC Saros and Washington's goalie. Sorry, his name slips my mind. But some of these goalies are being hung out to dry in these games. And then you're getting into what are essentially like emergency goalies, which we'll see the E-Bug goalie legacy in net for the Lightning likely tonight. We just don't know until these teams have 2 or 3 games under their belts. I kind of feel sorry for the goalies because they're being hung out to dry right now in these games, especially with teams that can score. There's been some sloppy games. Like nobody anticipated San Jose and Arizona having 15 goals scored in that game. I certainly didn't. But again, to the point of the goalies is you only notice it how good a goalie can be when he leaves a bad defensive team. And I'm not picking on the Toronto Maple Leafs here, but over the past few years, the Leafs haven't been the greatest defensive team. And you see what Reimer's doing right now in San Jose. The guy's playing lights out. Let's forget about the last game. You look at Freddie Anderson in Carolina, a good defensive team. This guy won his first 13 games, Andrew, for the Canes. I think it's the system in front of you. Jack Campbell is having a fantastic year for the Toronto Maple Leafs right now. Why? Because the Leafs are now committed to playing a better defensive game. Keefe hasn't played a better defensive game. When you play for a team that does not play defense, we never know whether that goalie is as good or as bad as he looks between the pipes. But that's my thought, anyways.
Great stuff there, Carm. Really great. I think we should clip what you just said there because I think a lot of people need to be aware of that, and it might just kind of be. It might. He's looking at me saying, "No, don't do it." I think a lot of people might be looking at some of these goaltenders and being like, "Oh my God, this guy's having a bad game." Though, and to your point, it's just the team defensively having that bad game. But to your point about goaltenders with bad defensive teams, let's just again talk about Philip Grubauer for a second. Going from Colorado, a team that was scoring 5 goals a game and playing pretty well defensively, and now going to the expansion team. That's a great example there. You look at even Marc-Andre Fleury when he was, starting things out with Chicago. Everybody was saying that, this isn't the Marc-Andre Fleury we know. Well, that's not the case. He was just playing on the Blackhawks now. But anyway, we'll move on. We'll move forward with our next game, and it's the Battle of the Sunshine State here. Tampa Bay Lightning and the Florida Panthers go head-to-head. The Panthers, they're minus 150 at home. Tampa Bay plus 130. I want to say on the highway, but are they really going on the highway? 6.5 is the total in this game. Carmel, get your thoughts here in this one.
Yeah, I'm going to go back to something I've said throughout the year. When a team when a good team strings together a bunch of losses and 3, 4, 5 losses, and they get that win, I like to come right back with them again. And Florida fits that. You look at them. They lost 8-2 to the Senators. They lost, and then followed that up with 4-1 to the Kings, and then 12 goals in 2 games for a team that, if you looked at going back to, I think, the 3-quarter mark of last season to this season, had only lost, I think, 1 game at home in 25 or 26 games. I think it was. There was a huge string of games. and then they lose and get embarrassed twice. They played a very good game last night against the Rangers. The Rangers are a very good team. Do not fall asleep on this Rangers team. They're a bye team as well, too, and they beat them 4-3. Now they play, it's a back-to-back game, but they're playing a Tampa Bay team who, despite winning 4 games, I'm telling you, this team has not been playing as good as their results. You look at that game in Vegas, they fell behind. The Knights allowed them to come back in that game. They played the Canadiens, who fought them tooth and nail, but I think it's the defensive miscues for the Lightning that kept Montreal in that game. I think Florida's the play here. The price last night was good. I think the price early this morning was good. And while it's not going to continue to go up, the Panthers at 150 right now, it seems like a big price, but it really isn't. When you look at Vasilevsky is not in goal tonight. It's likely going to be Legacy again as well. And for a Florida team getting healthy, facing an E-bug goalie could be a recipe for another win, 2 wins in 2 nights for them. Bri, your thoughts on this one?
I agree. You go back and you hit on something when Tampa Bay played Vegas. I watched that game, and Vegas dominated the entire game. And Tampa Bay Vegas was dominating the game, and Tampa Bay was out of it. And all of a sudden, a couple breaks go their way, and they get a couple short goals. They're right around the goal off of rebounds and stuff, and they're right back in it, and it like took the air out of the stadium. And they ended up winning that game. Then they just played Montreal, and Andrew talked about this earlier. Montreal's not a good team. They're playing shorthanded, and they took Tampa Bay to overtime. That tells me all I need to know about Tampa Bay right now. Tampa Bay in the month of December, 9 wins, 1 loss. You look at that number, you're going to think this line is huge. And it is pretty huge. If you just ask somebody off the street, Tampa Bay against Florida, playing in Florida, what are you going to make this line? Nobody would say 150. But as was pointed out, this Tampa Bay team is not playing as well right now. They haven't come out of the break very well. Didn't go into the break. They were very lucky in that Golden Knights game once again. And Maxime Lagacé played for the Knights here, so I'm very familiar with him. He had some good games. He had some bad games. I give him all the credit in the world. When Vegas had a lot of times when they were really shorthanded from the goalie situation, he came in and he did a very admirable job. And I was impressed in that regard. But it was a situation where the defense in Vegas helped him out. And you're going to have to see that tonight in Tampa. Tampa Bay is going to have to play a very good defensive game to keep Florida from scoring in this game. And that hurts the Tampa Bay offense. And as we all know, Tampa Bay can score on anybody, but when you've got a third-string goaltender in there that has been a fringe player in his entire career, going back and forth from the minors to the majors, it's going to be a defensive effort out of them. As I did mention, Tampa Bay 9-1 in the month, but they're not playing well right now. I bet Florida last night at minus 127. It's up to minus 150 now. I still think it's a pretty good number here. Florida, I believe, has won 4 of the last 5 in the regular season. But if you go back to the end of last year, who knocked Florida out of the playoffs? Tampa Bay. So you got playoff revenge. I know it's the 3rd time I believe they played this season. But last time Tampa Bay won, I think it's Florida's time to win here. I like Florida in this game. And 150 is still a fair number. The 127 I bet into is just a bad number. I don't know why they didn't take more of a look at the goalie situation. But the 150 is still cheap in my regard. I like Florida here.
Yeah, Brian, and I agree with you. I think the price is good there. And Andrew, I'm going to throw it back to you in a second. And your take is completely right on. You look at the Tampa Bay Lightning's schedule or their last 10 games or so, and they've got wins. The thing is they're winning ugly games, but good teams win ugly games. The win over Ottawa, where Ottawa played a fantastic game, and that was, I think, on the heels of right after the 8-2 game where they beat Florida. The game before that, after they returned home from their road trip, they struggled against the LA Kings, but beat them in overtime. They're winning games, they're winning ugly, but that's what good teams essentially will do. This just doesn't seem like a game where they win an ugly game. For them to win, they've got to be so much better than Florida tonight, and I think that's why the price is where it is. Andrew?
Look, guys, you guys gave some great analysis on this game. I'm a hockey fan as well as a sports bettor. I will sit back and enjoy this game, and recommend people listen to what you guys just said there. I thought that was some great stuff, and great job there by you, Brian, getting that better number, because wow, that is quite the difference from what we're seeing now, and we might even still see some movement. But yeah, goaltending definitely plays a huge factor into this game for sure. I would jump into our next game, San Jose and the Philadelphia Flyers going head to head here. Philadelphia obviously off that exciting winner last night in overtime. Philadelphia, they're plus 135 underdogs here. San Jose minus 160 at home here. After that game that Carmine talked about, and I mentioned yesterday on the show, Carm, I'm very, very happy that you don't lose more money the more wrong you are in a game, because I had the under in that game. So there was definitely no pain and suffering. It was kind of just a quick and easy death as far as that loss goes in this game. But, I will say this, Carm and I, and mostly me, have gotten some backlash for the way we've talked about the Philadelphia Flyers on this show this season. And I think that the funny part was, at first, at the part of the year, right, when I was talking about them, I was saying, these guys don't have any depth. They only rely on their superstars to score. And they went on like a 6 of their last 9 wins or something like that, or they went on a pretty good run. And during that time span, I was just getting ripped apart in the live chat here on YouTube comment section. Oh, these guys hate Philadelphia. They hate the Flyers. I bet on them last night, baby. We won last night. So don't say I don't bet on this team ever. I just don't, do it often. But you always let us know about these prices. Is this a fair number here with San Jose minus 160, giving up 7 goals to the Coyotes? The Coyotes won't score 7 goals in their next 7 games. They score 7 goals in one game here, Brian.
Well, the markets are saying it's a good line. It opened 135, and now we're seeing up to 160 here. People got to keep in mind when we talk about teams on this, you can't love teams. You can be fans of teams, but you can't love teams and hate teams, because there's only so many teams to bet on in this league. If you mark off a team who says, well, I'm never betting this team, you're costing yourself a chance to make some money. If you got a team that you just say, I'm never betting against this team. Look at Carmine. He's a Buffalo fan. If he would have said, I'm never betting against my hometown team, look at how much money he would have cost himself over the years. I mean, come on. Philadelphia, I've probably made more money betting against Philadelphia the last few years than any team out there. Doesn't mean I hate Philadelphia. I love Gritty. My wife and I, every chance we got to see Gritty on TV, we were so excited to see it. It's just, we're looking at numbers here, and then we're not looking at teams. We're looking at numbers. That's how you make money. You're looking to buy low, sell high, and that's what we do, and that's how anybody who plays the stock market or bets should be doing. Yes, the line is higher than it was. Yes, I liked San Jose at one point. No, I don't like them now. I think the line has gone too high. When you take a look at their numbers on the season from Evolving Hockey, they're not as far apart as you would expect from a goals plus or minus per 60. These teams are relatively close. When you take a look at the expected goals, San Jose is much better. San Jose playing at home here. I like San Jose, but I'm not laying this number. There was better numbers overnight. The 135. Now we're laying one. I'm not going to lay 160 in this one, as opposed to some of the other games we talked about. I still think we had some value in. There's no value in playing San Jose. If that's a team you want now, maybe we can get some buyback later on today, and you'll be able to get them at maybe 145. But your 160 and 155 range, it takes me out of it. And you've got to be able to say no. You've got to be able to know what your strike numbers are, and I talk about it a lot. And if it's passed up your strike number, you think of other ways to play it, maybe a first period play, maybe goals over, something like that, a team total. But right now, the actual game line is too high for me to play, even though I like that side.
Kyle, what about you here? Any side or total you're liking here?
Yeah, you look at it, and we don't know who the goalies are, but, the Flyers are playing the second of a back-to-back. They're showing Marty Jones, who started last night against the Kraken and Grubauer, as likely starting tonight. I think the bigger thing is you've got Reimer coming off allowing 7 goals and It was an abysmal performance, but it wasn't his fault. He was left hung to dry by the sloppy play of the Sharks. So you have to figure the Sharks have a game under their belts. You put Reimer back in there. You play a strong defensive game in front of them, and they get the win. I still don't want to lay the $1.60, but I don't want to take the Flyers. Kind of like what Brian said. You look at the Flyers, and yeah, they've won 5 of their last 6 games. But then you have to wonder, are they a good team having won 5 of the last 6 games? They beat the Kraken, Ottawa Senators, the New Jersey Devils, Arizona. They did start the streak against the Vegas Golden Knights. But the teams that they've beaten, you can only beat the teams in front of you, aren't the best in the league. These are lower half of the standings teams. You look at the teams that they lost against, okay, and it's the Rangers, Florida, Carolina, the Avs, the Lightning. They've lost to some good teams. So are they as good as this 5-game winning streak, or are they bad as that losing streak that they put together? I think they're somewhere in the middle, which is kind of like what Brian says, puts them in line with the Sharks. I don't want to lay at 160, and I don't think 140 is enough for me to want to take it. I'm actually going to lean, and this is a take based on Reimer. I'm going to lean to the under here because the Flyers are on the tail end of a back-to-back. That was a lower scoring game. Not a lot of chances, even though it was a 3-2 final in that game. I just think the Sharks defensively will be better tonight, and I think 6 is too much here. So under the total for me here.
That's where I'd play too, Carm. That's where I'd go. I'll put myself through that scrutiny of another San Jose game going under, and hopefully they don't pick up where they left off in their last game. But hey, I think that they will get better goaltending because there were some weak ones there. They do have some pretty good defensemen. I think it's a stronger part of their team. And I think if San Jose wants to be successful, I think we all know as hockey handicappers that winning high-scoring games isn't going to be their MO, because if they go up against a solid team, like you were saying, when you play, superior competition like the Colorado Avalanche or teams like that, and you are playing sloppy, and it's 1st to 5 wins, they will not be that 1st to 5. So I think it's a great point. I'm right there with you. And that Philadelphia game, despite them being on the second half of a back-to-back, these guys are rested. This is only their second game back here. And they actually did play some pretty good defensive hockey. So I'm right there on the under. That does it for our show. As far as the 4 games, breaking it down, we got some best bets coming up. We're going to let everybody know what we have up at WagerTalk.com. We'll start with Carmine Bianco. What's going on for you today, man?
Yeah, it's just NHL tonight. I am working on some weekend stuff, but I think there's 3 games right now up on the card. What I'm going to do is, because I left some winning plays on the cutting room floor yesterday, and I wasn't happy about it because some of the ones that did make my card of the 3-pack, ended up going like 1 and 2. So I'm going to include in the package that's up right now at Wager Talk every other game that I like on tonight's card, whether it's a total, whether it's a side. I'll just include them as 1% plays. So what would have been on the cutting room floor. I'm going to make them plays because I am betting on the games, so you guys should get them. As far as my show best bet, I am going to go back to the first game that we talked about, the Sabres and the Islanders. And this is how you turn a team that is a minus 200 favorite into plus money. I'm going to take them in the first period. I'm going to take the New York Islanders minus a half a goal, plus 135 in the first period. I hope that Barry Trotz has them ready to play. I think you're catching the Sabres again on the tail end of a back-to-back, and it looks like it's going to be Malcolm Subban in goal tonight for the Sabres tonight. So you're getting the worst of their goalies, although he's still a good goalie. He's just not a starting goalie. I don't even think he's a number 2 goalie, to be honest with you guys. New York Islanders minus a half in the first period, plus 135. That is my show best bet.
That is unbelievable to be able to take a favorite of that big of a price and get that plus price number in the first period there. Carm, great look there for Mr. Carmine Bianco. Check him out over at WagerTalk.com. Bryan Leonard, going to you. No pressure, but the best bets have been pretty good so far this week on the show. Let's hear it, man. Best bet time.
I'm going to go off the board a little bit today, but before I do, I just want to let you know up on the site right now, I've got a nice 4% play in hockey. Swept the board yesterday over the last month. Number one, almost doubling the profit of my closest competitor, who is on this show right now, Andrew McInnis, number two over the last 30 days, but he still leads me on the season. He's number one, I'm number two. For the third straight year, I think I'm number two in hockey, right behind Dave Koken last year. Speaking of Dave Koken, this game that I'm going to speak about, I got to give hats off to Dave Koken. I'm going to look at the Vancouver game tonight. Vancouver at LA. When they had the coaching change, Dave Koken came in and he played Vancouver. I think he's been on Vancouver every game since, and they've won 7 straight times. Yeah. Hats off to Dave. He's been very good on catching these teams ready to get on a run. And I had Vancouver yesterday. I'm coming back on him again tonight. How is a team that's won 7 straight games in this price range? You're getting up basically 120 as an underdog to the LA Kings. Yes, they're on the second game of a back-to-back. They had to go to overtime yesterday. They beat a team in Anaheim, a team that they never win in Anaheim. They went out and they won that game. They dominated that game from start to finish. They deserved that victory. After every period, I continued to put more money on Vancouver in live betting. Carmine and I talked about that before the show. Love live betting in hockey. It's tremendous ability to really pad your bankroll. Vancouver's a confident team. Playing back-to-back, I don't care. This is a team on a nice winning streak. The LA Kings, on the other hand, are a team that's still getting guys back from COVID, some guys going off on COVID. To me, their best goaltender is back now, but he's not going to be behind the net tonight. Jonathan Quick will be back behind the net. And you've got a Kings team. The coach, during the break, said they had 2 practices. Both practices, the team really struggled. They were very lackadaisical. And if you watch the Kings against the Knights the other day, it was one of the most lopsided games in hockey that you'll ever find. The Knights came out, took a big lead early, and then basically just took the air out of the tires, as they say. And the Kings came back and cut it to 6-3. But the Kings just are not playing well right now. They didn't play well in the practices. And now you're expecting them to beat the hottest team in hockey at home and lay, a 135 price? I can't do it. Give me Vancouver. They were good to me yesterday. They're going to be good to me again today. I like Vancouver, plus the money is my best bet on this show.
Let's ride the streak. Bryan Leonard, I love it. Always great having you on the show. The Vancouver Canucks are hot right now under the new head coach, and that is Bryan's best bet. Check him out over at WagerTalk.com. And I got, full transparency, Bryan. I'm number 5 on the season. So I'm not sure who's in front of you. But like guys, I've been very, very open about my season, especially on Twitter. It's kind of been something to have some fun with here because as much success as I've had lately, my October was so bad that, I'm still not up that much on the season. I'm happy with where I am right now, but October, I just had a horrible start to the season, Bryan. So even taking November and December combined together, we're having a good season. But I'm not where I'd like to be since October was so far apart. But I'm on a 33-11 NHL run right now. So no short-term streaks for you guys today. 33-11 run. Looking at the over in the Columbus and Nashville game today, going over 5.5. Patrick Laine is healthy. He's back in the lineup. This Nashville team, they're scoring goals. Talk about a streaky team as well. They're looking pretty good as well. They got their top guys playing really well. No Roman Josi either. That hurts them defensively. And for the Columbus Blue Jackets, they're also one of those teams that we all kind of thought they'd be an under team. The past 2-3 years, they've been an under team. Not so fast. I don't think they're an under team. And I think that we've got some great talented guys in that team that can score, but also their defense hasn't been good. And Columbus, they haven't played since December 16th. I take that into account big time. Give me the over 5.5 with Nashville and Columbus. We'll recap the power plays up here on the screen. Like I just mentioned, the Predators and the Blue Jackets over 5.5 for me. Carmine Bianco, great value here. The Islanders first period, -0.5 goal, plus 135. Bryan Leonard riding that streak. Vancouver Canucks on the money line, plus 120. On behalf of Carmine, Bryan, I'm Andrew. See you guys tomorrow.
Now you can enjoy the happiness of the holidays for the next 6 months by paying less and making more money by getting 180 days of picks from your favorite handicapper at a huge discount. This limited time Christmas special gives you a 90-day all-access pass with a handicapper of your choice at WagerTalk.com, plus an additional 90 days of all-access passes at no additional cost, an $849 value. This comes out to just under $5 per day, includes all sports released and any 5% best bets, normally priced at $35 each. Your access with your handicapper will cover NFL through the Super Bowl, college football through the national championship, any NBA and NHL action, including playoff games played during access and the start of the MLB season. Plus, if your handicapper does UFC, soccer, tennis, or any sport, yep, it's included. Happy holidays from everyone at WagerTalk.